Wow, it's a beautiful Thursday morning, and we are so glad to have you out here. Good morning to you out there, wherever you are viewing us from, right here from Western Spring Television. We'd like to say, how was your night? I hope we all had a restful one. Welcome to Morning Spring, live from Western Spring Television, channels 190 on the Star Times DTT. Yep, TUNDE IDOWU is my name, and at Irresistible TD on Twitter. I'd like to let you know that you can follow us on all our social media handles on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. We are live on all these platforms at Western Spring Television. If you, peradventure, you are joining me for the very first time on this program, I'd like to welcome you most sincerely, and I can assure you, you are in for a jolly ride. Today, as usual, we'll go straight into details of what is happening from the dailies. So much to talk about from the papers, the headlines, and we'll get concrete and very, very concrete analysis on the show this beautiful morning. And in the course of the program, much later in the morning, we will be looking at the issue of change of name, change of national anthem, the Crest, and the flag law right here in Osun State. It has raised a couple of questions. People have reactions. It has raised a couple of reactions. People have said, why at this time are we trying to change quite a whole lot of things? There's been some controversy about this. We'll look into that. We'll look at, is this needed at this moment in time? What should have been done at this moment in time? Let me welcome you once again on behalf of the entire transmission team, most especially on behalf of my executive producers and my producers, the directors, and the entire camera crew. I'd like to say thank you always for being here. Let's get the show started very, very shortly as we go straight into details of some of the headlines making the round from the different dailies. Stay with us. Don't go nowhere.
Can you imagine the feeling when you get your news as they break with facts and clarity? Our news are reported as it is.
In Africa, and all those who masterminded the way it happened will have to pay a price.
Enjoy Western programs, projecting culture and tradition to the world. Brought to you as the break and recapped every hour for your update.
You must never forget the sacrifices of the heroes of Nigeria's democracy.
Produced and brought to you in a unique way never before seen.
Western Spring
and Western Spring Television.
Television is coming home in your color and culture.
Aminatu, the legendary Queen of Zazzau, is best known to historians as Queen Amina of Zaria, an old walled town and capital of the Hausa state of Zazzau. Amina was a great warrior and the first woman to rule the ancient kingdom of Zazzau. Her 34 years as queen witnessed an unprecedented expansion of Zazzau by conquests. Queen Amina of Zaria belongs to the class of Amazons by the might of her army and her strings of conquests. She opened Zaria to trans-border trade and was said to have initiated kola nut cultivation in the ancient kingdom. The Hausa Muslim figure was born in 1533 and died in 1610 at the age of 77 years. Folklores remember Aminatu, the Queen of Zazzau, as a brave, smart and talented leader whose giant statue now adorns the National Arts Theatre in Lagos, Nigeria, while many educational institutions bear her name. Western Spring Television identifies Queen Amina as a watershed character in history. It was a Euro-American trade in slaves by which 12.5 million Africans were captured from their indigenous homelands and transported via the Atlantic to Europe and the Americas. The transatlantic slave, also known as triangular trade, was the worst form of man's inhumanity to man and the most costly in human life of all long-distance global migrations. Hundreds of Africans chained tightly to plank beds in the belly of slave ships in horrific conditions were transported via the Atlantic and stripped of all human dignity on arrival in Europe and America. It is the greatest crime the Caucasians committed against the black race. It is impossible to discuss the transatlantic slave trade without a copious reference to impoverishment and underdevelopment of Africa and its peoples. The triangular trade left the continent in ruins. Western Spring Television identifies transatlantic slave trade as a watershed event in history. Kiriji War, also known as Ekiti-Parapa War, was waged among Yoruba main ethnic groups which emerged from the ruins of the falling Oyo Empire that were desperate to replace the awesome powers hitherto wielded by the Alaafin of Oyo. The Kiriji War is defined as a conflict of confederacy and unitary political system championed by Yorubas of different socio-economic and political interests. The Ibadan military aristocrats felt they deserved a dominant position for saving Yoruba land from being totally submerged by the Fulanis by their victory in Osogbo War of 1840 and Ijayi.
Thank you for being there with us, and once again let me welcome you to the program. If you are just joining us, it's still Morning Spring coming to you live from Western Spring Television, and today as always we take things first from the dailies, and we'll do a couple of analysis before we get into the program properly as at this point in time. But quickly, I'd like to welcome my analyst, who is more than just a dean. He is a policy analyst. I don't know, maybe he's a civil rights activist yet, but then he is a man of great virtue. I'd like to welcome former Dean Student Affairs, Federal Polytechnic there, Dr. Oluyemi Omotosho Jr. Doctor?
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Good morning. And how do they say good morning by us?
Thank you very much.
I don't know how you're a little bit used to that. Let's look at some of the headlines making the rounds from the dailies this morning. And quickly, from the Punch newspaper, I have this headline here, which Nigerians are saying, hey, probably it's about that time. NLC protests Tinubu's 500 billion naira subsidy palliative, demand 300% pay rise. There are two riders associated to that story. It says, Rep sits on 500 billion naira subsidy relief request today. Federal government labor for fresh negotiations. 500 billion naira not enough for 125 million poor Nigerians affected by deregulation. That's credited to NLC TUC. Doctor, here we are. Which would have been better? Well, the increase, 300% increase in pay rise, or the 500 billion naira palliative being proposed by Mr. President?
Well, I thank God that your organization here is following up this story properly and systematically. We have said severally that the president put the horse before the cart. It's wrong. What we are discussing now, what is sending to the State Assembly or the National Assembly now, could have been sent first. We'll have discussed and finalized all the palliatives before the removal of subsidy. Not that he didn't do that. He is doing it now. Even when you look at the bill he sent to the House, he didn't tell us how the palliative will look like. It's just 500 billion naira for palliative. I don't think he has explained into details how the palliative will look like. And then when Labour is asking for 300% increment, they will be justified, because when you look at the town now, inflation is about 22%. And then I've said it here before that in 2016, when Buhari suddenly observed that when he removed subsidy, he later realized that if he continues with it, the economy will run to recession. And what he did was quietly bring back the subsidy because there was galloping and hyperinflation that time. We are running to that now. So, boy is asking for 300%. You can't blame them because the inflation in town is galloping and is killing. It's every sphere of life: transportation, health, food, school, everything. In fact, as I was coming here this morning, I was thinking, can I be using 10 liters to go to rave regularly? You pay 5,000, I go back. If you call me tomorrow again, I have to do the same. I've said this severally here that people have to manage now, and it's difficult. And you buy petrol, 520, 515. So he has put the car before the horse. And now, the way Labour is talking now, they are talking authoritatively that they want 300%. That means that we don't know the end to this discussion. And so this suffering will continue till further notice. We don't even know when the National Assembly will sit on the palliative and give approval. And when approval is given, then the schedule implementation stage by stage will not commence. And so we have a long way to go. Whereas we will have started with this submission to the National Assembly first, discuss palliatives, agreed with all stakeholders before you remove the subsidy. So we are running to a big problem. And I only pray that this inflationary trend we are witnessing will not lead us to another recession.
Doctor, let's look at this. We know the speed at which corruption is so endemic in our nation, Nigeria. If 500 billion naira is released today, we will be looking at who and who will get these palliatives. Now, but if 300% can be agreed upon when it comes to pay rise, that will probably go a long way to redeem and reduce the spate of poverty, the spate of tension and what have you in the country. What do you think should be done?
I don't think the president is thinking of distributing money to anybody. I think he's thinking of strategies to actually cushion the effect through transportation, that's subsidizing transportation now, and then paying workers properly. For instance, let me give you an example. If like 60,000 or 80,000 had been added to my salary, immediately they remove subsidy, I will not be complaining. I will dedicate that particular amount to my transport, and that will lessen a lot of problems.
Absolutely.
And then for the farmers, for the civil servants, a salary increment they need. For the general public, we need, a reassessment of our transportation system. We need a reassessment of our health program. We need a reassessment of our food security. You have to actually motivate farmers to produce food so that food is cheap. But can we do that in the short term? That's what was envisaged, and that's why it will have done the palliative thing first before removing the subsidy.
Absolutely.
Now, it's fire brigade approach now. And so what you expect is possibly they will think of some people like BARR will always think, let us give them 5,000. What will 5,000 do? If you give somebody 5,000 right today, in the next 3 days it's gone. And then you'll be asking for another one. So we need systems that will actually, reduce this and cushion this, suffering to a reasonable extent. For instance, if you look at Europe and America, their transport system is very good. Absolutely. And because it's very good, their complaint is less. Here, the transportation system is terrible. It's affecting food, it's affecting health, it's affecting education, it's affecting the security of the country itself. And so we need to really do a long-term planning about how Nigerians can be comfortable. So anytime you do cushion, subsidy removal or something like this, nobody will complain bitterly. People are complaining bitterly because the effect is too groaning.
We'll keep our fingers crossed, and definitely we'll keep monitoring what the federal government's NLC, TUC, the outcome of this. As much as Nigerians can breathe a sigh of relief, that is what we actually need. Moving on here, and just below that same banner headline I reeled out, you have the picture of the Vice President Kashim Shettima and a delegation from India, and you have that young lady, a representative, a UN ambassador, Malala. There, but there's a headline here. It says, "No Nigerian child should lack education." Malala tells federal government. You are in the education sector. When you look at the speed at which the number of out-of-school children in Nigeria today, how do you feel?
Let me tell you this. Education is a bedrock of development.
Absolutely.
Without education, we go nowhere. You have to actually educate the people to banish poverty. Because with education, their eyes will be open. They will know what they can do for their living. And then they will know attempts they can make that can assist them and assist the economy. Now, education here should be free. When you look at the humongous amount of money being stolen every day, you will realize that if child practices and corruption are curbed, Nigeria should place education on first line charge, and it should be free from primary to university. All this one they are saying, yes, it's not possible, it's not possible. We have the money. Look, are we, as an oil producing country, is Sudan, is Saudi Arabia not an oil producing country? Is Qatar not an oil producing country? Is Canada an oil producing country? Go and see how education is in Canada and US. They subsidize education to the extent that parents are not groaning for their children to go to school at all. A nation must subsidize three things. The first one is energy. The second is education. The third is food. And once all those ones are subsidized, there will be less problem. If you get to the center of our excellence this day in Nigeria, to tertiary institution, poverty is clearly defined in tertiary institution. As I'm talking to you, we are writing exam in our school. So many students can't pay school fees. So many, in fact, the director has to give approval that integrated fees is not compulsory, and so students can pay after exam. You can imagine that. And then it means that some people are schooling, in debt, and that is wrong. And so government should subsidize education to the extent that it will not be difficult for any parent to pay. Nigeria is rich to the extent that we can do that. I think it was in this country we heard the managing director of NNPC telling us that they make about 867 trillion naira profit for 1 year. Where is the money? And then this subsidy we are talking about that they didn't give us for 1 month now, we realize about 400 and something billion. Yeah. What are we doing with it? It should go to education, it should go to health, it should go to all these critical areas so that citizens can be happy. The essence of our Commonwealth is to make us happy.
Looking at what should actually be approved for education from every country's budget is about 26% as credited to UNESCO.
Yes.
But in Nigeria today, it's less than 10%.
Less than 8% most times. And what you have is, they are not even giving it as a priority. Assuming it's a priority, we say they are trying. Just visit any of the tertiary institutions. They are glorified secondary schools. And then if that we OAU that is an architectural masterpiece, go there now and see what is happening. You enter a class that can accommodate 60 students, about 3,000 students are struggling for that space. Is that education? Fans will not work, media, PowerPoint will not work and all sorts of things. Of course, we don't even use that because of the epileptic electricity here. And so you see a student graduating 400, 300 left, graduating in a course, and he cannot boot a computer because he has not actually practiced with one. For the last 5 years he has been in school. Most of our students don't even have laptop. They use their phone. And in that case, are they proficient in a computer? These are things, facilities that are necessary. So government should place education as a first line charge and finance it properly. That was why Awolowo said, for a country to develop properly, education should be taken as a major priority. If government cannot finance education free from primary to university, they should be able to do it primary, secondary, and tertiary subsidized with about 70%. There's nothing bad in that. That's why Nigerians are running to Canada. For instance, if you go to Canada today with your children and you're allowed to enter the country, your children in primary and secondary school is free. Absolutely. And once they graduated from that secondary school and they be confirmed to have their stay, going to university is also free. So, Yoruba will say, Nigeria is a stupendously rich country. It is just corruption and child practices that is actually taking away our wealth And that is why most Nigerians are suffering. Honestly, with the level of wealth Nigeria has, I don't think we have anything to do with poverty. Look at the amount of money we are spending on election. Ordinary election. Those are too much. And then look at how governors and the president move around here with convoys of cars that are expensive. With you know, they will take all sorts of petrol, and you cannot actually quantify the limit of what they use per day, per week, per month, and per year. And so those are the sharp, and then all those go with all sorts of sharp practices. It's only in Nigeria here now you see that something of 10 naira they will share in the rule, in their book, in their contract book. When I was in the presidency, I was shocked. I went to the PAMSEC, and the minister one day and said, big biro is 20 kobo. Why are they quoting 150 naira?
For
and look at the quantity, look at the quantity they want to buy, and it's approved. And it's approved by the authority. So all those child practices should stop. Once those child practices stop, we will have surplus to actually maintain our population, particularly our youth, and then our productive sector, and the economy will be buoyant.
In the course of your analysis, you made mention of power supply, which is erratic. There's this story here that says, House to investigate 14-year power outage in Ondo communities. I wonder, it's not 14 days, it's not 14 weeks, we're not 14 months, we're talking 14 years that this community has not had a power supply.
We just mentioned Ondo community. There are other communities. Even in this Osun state, that is supposed to be the energy center of the country. I settled here because energy was stable here before. But now it has changed. Now, anytime they want to take light in Osun state before, it will be announced on television and radio. That was in the 80s when we were in the university. But that's changed now. There are other communities without light. They don't even think of it. In many states, particularly in the Niger Delta and then in the far north. Is it because so many Nigerians are docile and complacent, they are not complaining? And there is no energy here. Look, we generate about 4,000 megawatts. That is not sufficient for Yaba to use in a day. So at times, I start wondering how we even get the little light we get. With a population of 200 million, we are generating about 4,000 to 5,000 megawatts. What is that? Look at South Africa with a population of about 60-something million. They are generating more than 80-something thousand megawatts. Look at Iran with a population of about 100 and maybe something million. They are generating 145,000 megawatts. I mean, when you hear we are generating 4,000 megawatts, how many people can use that? I just told you now, with the commercial activities in Yaba, 4,000 megawatts is not sufficient for them.
Absolutely.
And what do you have? All sorts of generators that are imported here and there, and top government officials, politicians have become contractors importing generators, and that's why they don't want the energy to work. That is what killed our railway. And this is what is killing electricity now. Because some top Nigerians want to be doing business with electricity. And they have been doing business with a railway. You know, railway was functional here before. Until some characters introduce their trailers, and they say that until they make sure railway doesn't work, that's when their trailers will work. And that is what we're experiencing now. And the kind of roads we have are constructed for cars, mainly. There are no routes constructed for trailers. And so the roads that are constructed for cars, that trailers and heavy-duty vehicles are plying, becomes, damaged within a short period of time. So we suffer in all fronts. It is quite unfortunate. There are so many communities that are suffering. The epileptic power supply here is unpardonable. And again, government must not only make energy a priority, they must subsidize it. Because if you don't subsidize it, production will be weak.
Absolutely.
All this one they are saying they want to increase that, it's just that they are not thinking properly. You have to subsidize energy. There is no country in the world that is not subsidizing energy. It is when you subsidize energy that production effort will increase. Artisans will work. The medium and small scale enterprises will work perfectly because they have power. And because of that, the GDP will increase and our productive efforts will increase. But when power is expensive, how many organizations will produce? And what we are going to produce with expensive energy is going to be costly. And once it is costly, you can't export. And because the export industry is competitive. So if you are exporting this thing for $10 and China is exporting it for $3, where will they buy? And so those are the problems. But if you go to China today, energy is highly subsidized. And then anybody, any artisan, any medium-scale industrialist can set up business and be happy, and then make sure he makes profit.
Dr. OMOTOSHO, thank you. Let me reel out some of the other headlines I have here from the pages of the Punch newspaper. Reps probe contract fraud, revenue leakages in Nimasa, and after Obasanjo's revelation, Atiku can't label me corrupt. That's credited to Autumn. What? The PDP seem to be seriously enmeshed in so many controversies.
Look, apart from the PDP, Nigeria has almost become a criminal enterprise. It's corruption we talk about every time. And when you mention corruption, you are talking of the governors, you are talking of the ministers, you are talking of the National Assembly member, you are talking of top politicians. This is what we see every day. You just mentioned Nimasa. Most agencies are like that. I've said this several times here that the NNPC, which is our cash cow, is a cesspool of corruption. If it's our cash cow and is a cesspool of corruption, how do we utilize the money for the benefit of all? When one individual or a group of people, we steal all the money. And so corruption is pervasive here and is endemic. And because of that, nothing can work. It is, you see them throwing brickbats to each other. And you are not as corrupt as myself. You are not, you know, that's the thing. And it is the poor people that suffer. Look at the amount politicians in Nigeria spend on campaign. Look at the amount they distribute every minute. That goes nowhere. Where are they getting the money? Who is probing? Look at the houses they live. Look at the kind of cars they live. Who is asking questions? Look, in UK today, a minor goes to the bank and pay maybe 10 million naira to the bank. They will invite him in,
definitely
give him a cup of tea, and call the police to investigate the source of income. How? And then it will not go. That's not all. Again, if he's here, a minor that pays 20 or 10 million naira to the bank officials will go and visit him in the evening and thank him. If he's here again, you know, if you are even a businessman and money, you know, fizzles into your account regularly, they monitor it. So if it is regular that you are having 2 million, 3 million, 2 million, 4 million, 5 million, and suddenly you have 50 million, they will invite you. Do we do that here?
Yeah.
How do we check corruption here? We can't check corruption because it has become pervasive to the extent that we feel everybody is corrupt. And then I was listening to Obasanjo yesterday that they told him that Ibori stole $200 million. And he said, okay, go and bring the 200 million. Pay to EFCC investigated him that time. Pay it to the bank. Say which bank? Say Obasanjo should open an account for him. Obasanjo used his position as president, open an account in the CBN for the state. Go and pay the money to the state. You know what he did? He took $15 million out of the money to go and bribe EFCC under Ribadu. Ribadu reported back to the president. President got angry. And then eventually he escaped. He ran to abroad. Abroad, they caught him, they probed him, they investigated him, they tried him and jailed him. You remember? Yeah. You know, these are Nigerians. Where is the money? Where is the money? $200 million that time. Nigerian politicians are that corrupt. Now, when Ibori came back to Nigeria, was welcome. He's still being honored today. You know, chieftaincy titles, traditional rulers, institutions. Those are the people they honor. A country that actually, you know, swell in corruption can never develop. It is quite sad.
Very, very sad. Moving up to the top strip of the Punch newspaper for today. Boards. Obi kicks as Tinubu offers opposition governor slots. Why here? Maybe because President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has not given the Labour Party.
I think the president wants an inclusive government, which I think is commendable. Everybody who has an idea about how this country can move forward who has the opportunity to participate in governance to be given the opportunity. You have the opportunity is good. So that thing you campaign with, go and do it in government. If you are not elected, maybe you want to serve, go and serve. Let's see you. And then if he wants an inclusive government like that, I think it's good. By the time you put some opposition, then you will stabilize the polity, the acrimonies will reduce, and then we will see what they can do. And that can determine how we view you in the next election. I think that is good. I don't know why Obi is complaining. Possibly they have not given his group. And if he wants to give his group, if he gives his group, he should. Particularly if I am the president, I will make Obi my chief economic advisor. Come and tell us all those things you are telling the world during the campaign that makes Nigerians to be clapping for you, that make you have 6 million votes. Come and do it. And then let's see it. This is your country. Service us. And once you do that, we see that, yes, you are committed. That can be a basis of reckoning with you in the next election. So I think an inclusive government is good. That's what we pray for. Then this idea of a winner takes all is not the best. Absolutely. And that is why politicians will like to die on politics in Nigeria in particular, because it's like only politics you can make it now in Nigeria. Apart from that, there is no business you do without energy that can succeed. Absolutely.
Thank you, Dr. OMOTOSHO. And still staying with the Punch newspaper, Nigeria redeems $500 million bond despite revenue challenges. And Army Chief orders IPOB raid, rubbishes amnesty for bandits. IPOB seem to be on the loose in the southeast today.
Honestly, I think the elders in the east has to sit down. They must get their ass together, call their youth and talk to them. Look, when we are growing up, when the elders call you, you become reasonable. But these days, it's like when the elders call youths, they become more unreasonable. Because what is happening in the East is not acceptable. Now, the IPOB is ruining the economic fabric of the East through sit at home. And somebody who is giving this order is abroad. He's not here. You stay abroad, comfortable, you know, and then you are giving orders for people not to work. If you don't work, will you eat? And so, and for the Igbo people, we know them to be business. And then we crumble it through thuggery, through, you know, attacks here and there. I think I'm laying the blame on the elders. The elders should call their youth together, have meeting with them, agree. This is not the way forward. If you want to agitate, the Yoruba people have been agitating, but that's never affected our economic fabric. The Northerners are agitating too. But if they can copy us, we agitate at the same time, you know, while we are crying, we are singing. And anybody who is crying that is not singing want to go and sing. And so the elders should call them to order, and government should collaborate with the elders in the southeast, you know, to actually dialogue and solve the problem in the East. The East is a major region in Nigeria. We cannot afford to actually abandon them. Government should not be looking at them. They should call them to order through the elders and then solve the problem.
But Dr. OMOTOSHO, do you think if the federal government releases Nnamdi Kanu today, all this sit at home?
Is that the first time we are going to do such a thing? Didn't we call all the Niger Delta activists, militants together, and then they surrender their hands, and then we pay them as amnesty, and then we even send them to schools? Can't you remember?
Yeah, I do.
Aren't we cutting Boko Haram people in the north? Is Nigeria not cutting them? Are we not calling some of them to order? Is federal government not giving them money and sending them to schools? So why can't they do that to the southeast? Southeast is an integral part of Nigeria and should not be abandoned. They may be doing their things abnormally. It is the responsibility of government and their elders to call them to order and do what is necessary to stabilize that particular environment. We have a lot to gain economically from that place. We have a lot to lose politically and economically by the violence that is rampant in the southeast. It is not acceptable. And government should not be aloof. Government must intervene. This is not sentiment. You have done it everywhere. Where are they not calling, what do you call them in Yoruba land here? The people under, what do you call these people that are agitating for us here?
Yoruba Nation?
Not Yoruba Nation, the one under Gani Adams.
OPC?
OPC, are they not calling them to order? Is government not holding meetings with them? Government should hold meetings with them and ask what are your problems and solve it. Look, the problem with Nigeria is, you know, where you are supposed to actually deal with these criminals. You don't deal with. You should separate criminals from agitators. Criminals must be dealt with according to the law. Agitators, you negotiate with them, and then you have an agreement with them, and you implement it. If somebody is claiming to be an agitator and is a criminal, you separate him and punish him. So criminals in the East should be punished. Agitators should be called, you know, through dialogue and discuss with, and the solution respond to their problem. You know, they say they are marginalized, they are calling for a Biafran state. They've been doing that over the years. We went through a civil war. After the civil war, we came back with reconstruction, you know, distribution and some other things like that. At the end of the day, we brought them to the mainstream. Why are we thinking they are not part of us now? They are part of us. Their problem is our problem, and Nigeria must solve it.
Nigeria must solve it. We urge the federal government, please, and government at all levels, state governors, elders in the southeast, let there be respite, let there be peace. When businesses are shut and everywhere is shut down. I know there was a time a couple of years ago when I had the opportunity to go to a bar on the axis, and I saw these guys with their guns and the kind of bullets used to surround their body.
You see the way they operate. It's like this is an ungoverned space.
Absolutely.
It's quite sad.
I agree.
But I've said before, that's not the first time. It happened with Boko Haram now. We saw them carrying guns. It's happened with the APC, OPC here too. They'll be carrying guns here and there until they were called to order through dialogue. You know the OPC is more civil now.
Absolutely.
And then they are better now because people have dialogue with them. Governors have called them that you can't go this way. The same thing will happen. In that Niger, militants are everywhere. I saw Dokubo, the one the president was hosting the other time, going to a party. If you see the kind of character that surrounding him with guns, advanced guns, and nobody is calling them to order. Are we in a banana republic where people who operate in the ungoverned state can carry arms anyhow, and people will be hailing them? That's what is happening with IPOB. And government, where are our security agencies? What are they doing to cover all those? And then, I mean, we can't tolerate that. That's why I say it is not everything you do mechanically through military intervention. You can call them through a dialogue, call their elders, call the youth, find out their problem and solve it. It's not, if you release Kanu today, would that be the first time an activist is released? No, that would not be the first time. So many have been released. Those who are supposed to be punished will be punished. If you feel you don't need to punish him, release him, let him sign agreement and all the rest of it, and restrict his activities to Nigeria and let him stay here too. And see that once this country is developed, he will be happy. I think that the solution should be dialogue. Dialogue,
we'll look forward to that, and that will be very, very necessary. Let's move on this morning and taking my next set of headlines from the Guardian newspaper. The Guardian newspaper is next, and you have this big, bold caption with some description here. It says, inflation and higher education. I'm so glad that I have somebody who is in the education line here. Tough times for students, parents, as school hikes fees by 200%. What is it like at the Federal Polytechnic?
The tough times are here already. I've said it. The tough times are here already. Look, if you want to go by what the students are paying, it's not enough. It's not sufficient. It's not adequate to maintain the schools. That is one. Two, the students don't even have the money to pay. Their parents don't have the money to pay. Inflation has taken all their income away. So it is the poverty is defined in all tertiary institutions now. And I must tell you, education is still cheap here. But we are still telling government to make it cheaper because people are so poor. But the fact is that how much tuition do we pay in our schools? Government doesn't have the political will to increase fees because they know that the parents, the poverty level is high, and that the parents will not be able to afford it. But for instance, if you want to do a BSc course or HND course in abroad, you pay between 6,000 to 7,000 pounds. You convert that to naira, you know how much it is. But a student in my department will pay about 30,000, 35,000, 50,000. That's all. Maximum maybe 60,000. And what do you have? They can't pay. They can't pay. Those are the people I was telling you that we have to cancel integrated. When we say integrated, we are talking of departmental fees, school office fee, student union, all the. We say, okay, integrated. It's not compulsory. You can pay after you have finished your exam, but we will not release your result except you pay. Wait. That's a style to make you educated. And when you pay those money, you come. With all that, how much are they paying? Still, so many of them cannot pay. So education is not competitive. And that's why we are saying government should charge competitive fees and then make sure Nigerians are comfortable. The only way Nigerians can be comfortable in terms of education is to provide the facilities as demanded by ASU and NASU in the university or tertiary institutions. And then after that, pay the workers properly. With that, I mean, we know where we are going. But the way we are now is poverty is affecting the parents. Lack of facilities is affecting all the tertiary institutions. So where do we go? So they say tough times are way tough because inflation is here. No school who is charging 20,000 last year will charge 20,000 this year. Absolutely. And then survive. Absolutely. And that's the problem. And you can't increase fee. You must get the permission of the federal government to increase it. And so what are you going to have? We are going to have shoddy situations in all these tertiary institutions. Look, I have a situation since we were in school those days. If you don't bathe by 4 a.m., 4:30 to 5 a.m., if you enter the bedroom around 5:30 to 6, the place is flooded. And then the toilet is full. And so we'll go and get block. This is appalling. Block, you mount block, you stand on the block, you cheat. So the physics is increasing. And in fact, those days I used to wonder how those people used to wash it. So because the toilets are not sufficient, as I talk to you today, facilities are still very, very inadequate in our tertiary institutions. The vice chancellors know it, the minister know it. Why are they solving the problem? What are we using our money to do? If we can use it to finance education, to finance health, to finance good living, and people are still in it. It's quite unfortunate that we'll get people who will be at the helm of affairs. Instead of solving our problem, they'll still be comfortable stealing. Stealing, where are you taking? Like the present president now. The wife told us they are comfortable enough. So if you are comfortable enough, help us block all the sharp practices so that Nigeria can be comfortable.
Absolutely.
It's as simple as that.
Absolutely. Let's look at other stories still making the round from the Guardian newspaper for today. It's really, really sad here. Vandals steal second Niger bridge fittings.
Yes. What do you expect from a... I don't want to lend credence to the fact that poverty can make you a thief. No. But that is what is happening. Who are the people stealing? What are their sources of income? Are they employed? Is it not people who are not employed that are going to the highway to steal those things and go and sell in the market in the following morning? Are government officials or government officers not colluding with them? Like I used to give the case of PACN. PACN is a foreign enterprise. You know, you have their workers possibly not well paid or something. They are the people who come and tell you how to cheat. And they will assist you. And NEPA will now start talking that they are not paying. Who is going to pay? So who are the people? In an environment where security is good, where employment is high, your youth will be busy. If, okay, you are here. You know when you have been preparing for your program, including all the people working with you. When they have the time to be thinking of how to steal in Olaya, when you know you have to be here by 6:30 or 6 a.m. So people who are unemployed, they will find work for an idle hand. That is the problem. That is why government must take care of employment, take care of poverty. Nigeria is the poverty headquarters of the world. Nigeria has about 133 million multidimensional poverty people. Nigeria has the highest unemployment rate almost in Africa now. It's quite sad. And you can't have that and expect peace in the society. It's because there is no peace. That's why they are stealing what is good for them.
Wow. When we listen to this, we feel so sad. But let's go a little bit traditional here. As but
again, are security people arresting them? If security people arrest those criminals, you punish them, you allow us to see them, that will reduce it. Because there is no society without criminals.
Absolutely. So
security is the work of security to arrest criminals and prosecute them. How many of them have been arrested and prosecuted?
We'll keep our fingers crossed. Now, there's this story on the blue strip of the Guardian newspaper here. Ladoja takes Makinde, Olubadan, 10 others to court over Ibadan chieftaincy law review.
You know, these are being recurring decimal.
It happened during the late...
yes. So, you know, it was done that time when I heard that this present governor has done it again. I thought he must have consulted widely. And the fourth person to consult is Ladoja. Ladoja is a high chief. Almost he wants to be the Oba of Ibadan, we know that. But you are creating this chieftaincy title, I think it will have been carried along. From what is happening now, it was not carried along. And then I don't expect the governor to do that kind of thing unilaterally. Honestly, personally, giving a personal opinion, I feel that Ibadan is big enough, you know, to have some areas turned to chiefdoms. I agree. Because if you look at Akpata and you see a chief there, and you talk of one village from Osun here with an Oba. When the Oba and the head of the chief in Akpata meet, the chief in Akpata will bow to him, even though he's managing more people than the one in the village here that is already a traditional ruler. Those are the things. For proper management, if you give them chiefdom, possibly it will increase development. But again, to do that, Ibadan is so big. You know, Ibadan, as we talk to you today, Ibadan has about 11 local governments. Ibadan is safe. Ibadan is the Oyo State.
Wow.
The rest are lesser cities. So if Ibadan is like that, one traditional ruler, I mean, we need to think about that if we are thinking of development. But again, if you must do that, you must carry the stakeholders along, particularly people like Ladoja. If people like Ladoja are not carried along, you have not done anything. Because democracy is actually the ability to mobilize the people to take decisions that are in their interest and then, you know, that are beneficial to them. It's not for you to unilaterally take a decision, you know, that you feel is good, which others may feel is not good. I think because Ladoja is complaining means all the stakeholders are not carried along. Makinde didn't do his due diligence there. He should go back and do it, and then they have gone to court now, and that can go to the Supreme Court. And if court says no, what can you do? And then so would you not subject things like that to judicial pronouncement?
It's a traditional thing.
Yes, traditional thing. The stakeholders will be carried along, and decisions will be reached consensusly in a way that people will not complain too much. Because too much complaining about traditional, which is the grassroots, can lead to crisis.
Because that's, I remember during the late former governor.
They even crowned them.
Yeah, they were crowned. They were giving staffs.
One of them is the king.
Yeah. So
that's the point.
I don't know. We'll keep
people matters. The people matter. It's the people. When the people are with you, one with majority is good. And if the people are not with you, you are finished. Look, if the people are saying something, listen to them.
It's all good. Moving quickly, let's check out some of the headlines from the pages of the Nation newspaper. Virtually, it's been most of what we have been discussing in the course of this program at this point in time. And you have this big bold headline there as well on the red strip. Okay. All right. Tinubu, remedy for subsidy withdrawal hardship soon. President asks lawmakers to approve 500 billion palliative cash. We'll be able to talk about that.
Soon. Is it soon?
Soon.
Yes, soon. But people are dying.
We just hope the soon will be very soon. And the red strip on from the Nation newspaper, T-shirt, jeans wearing lawmakers sent out from House of Representatives chambers.
Well, again.
Is it not free to wear whatever?
No, they are not. You must be formally dressed. I think their rules book says that. You must be formally dressed. So then that's the highest level of decision taking in this country. And it should be respected. And we have all sorts of tradition. Look at the way I appear this morning.
Yes, please.
I mean, look at the way you are appearing. That is how it should be. Our lawmakers should be responsible to the extent of their dressing. And we have good clothes that can showcase your culture. You know, showcasing our culture too is part of the politics. It's part of the economic development. Yes. Because, for instance, the cap I'm wearing now possibly is produced in Ayamasa, and then in Bayelsa State. If it's produced there and I'm wearing it to a television station, people see it and they're buying it. You are increasing the economic activity of that place, and they will make more money. So why can't you showcase your own culture? Why are you wearing jeans as if you can't differentiate you between militants and lawmakers? I think their rule book, if it's not there, it should be there that lawmakers should be formally dressed. In my school, the academic board, we have a guide. And the guy says, you must be formally dressed. Wow. So nobody can walk to the academic board that is informally dressed. You can be informally dressed to go to class. But when you are coming to the academic board, you must be formally dressed.
Quickly, because of our time,
that's shameful.
Yeah, honestly, Gina is a lawmaker for that matter, not just somebody there. Right, you see just below the major headline there, you can see the class of 1999 governors who visited Mr. President yesterday at the Aso Villa.
I think they are just amusing themselves, and it's good. They want to support
the opposition.
Yeah, they want to support their own.
Yes.
They have worked together before. They feel they can give him some moral and psychological support. That is good. And of course, you know, in Nigeria, they will look for some pet of office. That is still acceptable. As long as they can assist the president to perform, I support what they are doing. Anybody that can assist this president to perform very well is my friend, because we have suffered enough.
Absolutely.
We suffered
Absolutely.
enough. So if it is class of 99, if it is even the class of 98 or class of 2022 that you need, please call them. Let them provide solutions to our problem and let us move. And you know the greatest problem? They are telling the president the truth. It is corruption. Corruption. Once the government can solve corruption, reduce corruption to the barest minimum, we will have surplus to distribute.
Quickly here now, still on the pages of the Nation newspaper, federal government states to partner on electricity. Only 53% of electricity capacity utilized, says Commission. Rep slams BEDC for blackouts in Ondo South Council. Federal government states to partner on electricity. That would be a good thing.
They have signed the bill. PMB signed one. The president, TUNDE, PBAT, signed the remaining one. You remember he signed about 3 weeks ago?
Yes.
It's to decentralize the energy. And what are you messaging there? It's to pull down the energy, electricity in particular, from the concurrent list now, to make it to the grassroots. State can generate, they can distribute and transmit. With that, we expect more states, to key into that policy and then start generating little from there. If I should generate 500 megawatts, and Oyo generates 1,000, and Delta generates 600. When you put it together, it's increasing.
Absolutely.
That is what that bill means. But the unfortunate thing is that they are not key into it. How many governors have subscribed to that? How many? Because if they are subscribed to it, want to see the activities, want to see how they are generating, how they want to transmit, want to see them forming transmission boards, electricity boards, in their states. We have about 37 or 57 electricity boards in United Kingdom. And so you can be using a particular electric energy sector.
Just everybody.
With that, and then a particular electricity board may say, okay, we are providing energy for only 2 local governments. And the federal government has given them approval to go ahead. So what's the problem again?
I remember, was it not sometimes in 99 or 2000 during Bola Ahmed Tinubu's tenure as Lagos State Governor, before him and the federal government had...
They generated some energy and they have to transmit it to the national grid. And became useful for... The same thing, Amechi as governor generated about 700 megawatts for his people. They didn't allow him to use it. They say it's in the exclusive list, and so he has to transmit it to the national grid. And when you put it to the national grid, your people remain in poverty in terms of electricity.
And quickly, let's just check out some of the headlines we have from the pages of Daily Trust newspaper. We virtually most of the stories are common to the dailies, but this particular story, that's the black strip on the pages of Daily Trust. Bakers to hike bread price by 15%.
What do you expect? I've told you here, inflationary is becoming galloping. And so, look, even the bread we are buying now, when did you buy bread last? I bought bread yesterday. The bread has reduced in quantity and quality. That is the first thing you will observe.
It has.
Even the pure water. I've observed that it has reduced in quantity. That is one. 2, they are cutting corners. You can't blame them because of inflation. Some may not want to increase price, and then they reduce quantity. So where you are putting a particular quantity in 10 sachet bags, you want to put it in 20. That's one style. Another one is the quality. Another one is to increase price and give us good quality.
Absolutely.
The flowers they are buying, is it not expensive? The transportation that brings it to them is not expensive. And so many other things like that. I've told you that the subsidy thing has a multiplier effect on the economy. And that was why government needs to be careful. But they were not careful. They put the horse before the car. And then what we are doing now is a fire brigade approach to solve the problem. And we don't even know when the problem will be solved. But meanwhile, inflation is dealing with us. I'm praying every day that we don't run to recession.
Quickly, thank God you're in the education sector. NECO releases common entrance result. 6 pupils score 0-1. What does that mean? Look at that. common entrance.
It's an examination. No? You expect people to pass excellently. You expect people to fail woefully.
And does it not talk about the level of education in the country today?
No, it's normal. People will fail. If we look at the statistics, we later look at the statistics and see how many people passed, how many people, and the average, how many people did very well. Some people will perform woefully, and then you can't, even under good climbs, you see students who are not serious. And so they are unserious students here, and then such unserious, then you expect them to have good marks. And so the only thing where that will worry us is that when the number is so much, but I don't think from what you are saying, the number is much. But in an exam, you expect excellent student, good student, fine student, fairly good student, average student, and then poor student.
That will be all for the first round of this program this morning. I still have Dr. OMOTOSHO in the house, OMOTOSHO Jr. in the house with me this morning. And when we return after this very short commercial break, we will be joined by another very excellent personality who will be seated with me very shortly, and we will be discussing quite a whole lot. Here in Osun State, the national anthem will be rejigged or renamed. The crest of the symbol of Osun State, the flag law, these things have raised reactions just within 24 to 48 hours. What do you make of this? We will discuss this very shortly when we come back. Please stay with us.
It was a Euro-American trade in slaves by which 12.5 million Africans were captured from their indigenous homelands and transported via the Atlantic to Europe and the Americas. The transatlantic slave, also known as triangular trade, was the worst form of man's inhumanity to man and the most costly in human life of all long-distance global migrations. Hundreds of Africans chained tightly to plank beds in the belly of slave ships in horrific conditions were transported via the Atlantic and stripped of all human dignity on arrival in Europe and America. It is the greatest crime the Caucasians committed against the black race. It is impossible to discuss the transatlantic slave trade without a copious reference to impoverishment and underdevelopment of Africa and its peoples. The triangular trade left the continent in ruins. Western Spring Television identifies transatlantic slave trade as a watershed event in history. Kiriji War, also known as Ekiti-Parapa War, was waged among Yoruba main ethnic groups which emerged from the ruins of the falling Oyo Empire that were desperate to replace the awesome powers hitherto wielded by the Alaafin of Oyo. The Kiriji War is defined as a conflict of confederacy and unitary political system championed by Yorubas of different socio-economic and political interests. The Ibadan military aristocrats felt they deserved a dominant position for saving Yoruba land from being totally submerged by the Fulanis by their victory in Osogbo War of 1840 and Ijaye War of 1862. Kiriji War, that took its name from the booming motor sounds of European arms, festered for so long because the Industrial Revolution in Europe provoked high standards of slaves. The 16-year Civil War also caused the emergence of new powerful kingdoms like Ibadan and the rise of powerful personalities like Oluyole, Ogunmola, Kurumi, Latosha, Shodeke, Fabumi, and Ogedengbe. One of the fallouts of Kiriji War was the birth of creative political and leadership structure in Yoruba land that was a blend of federalism and the autocratic monarchical system. Western Spring Television identifies Kiriji War as a watershed event. The Korean War of 1950 to 1953 pitched North and South Korea against each other in response to intrigues by nations beyond their border with different interests from those canvassed by the two brother nations. The Korean War had all the nuances of an external conflict induced by powers that were interested in subjugating North and South Korea. Japan had leveraged on its military power to annex Korea in 1900 and imposed a military union that did not sit well with the citizens. Japan not only lost its war of conquest against Korea, all its powers were obliterated by the effect of the World War II. The end of World War II got Korea divided into two nations along 38 parallel lines by the instrumentality of the United States of America and the Union of Soviet Socialist Republic. The Korean War lapsed into a Cold War when it stopped the prying eyes of external forces into the internal affairs of a nation now divided along its north and southern territories. Western Spring Television identifies the Korean War as a major event in history. Samuel Ladoke Akintola was a frontal figure in the historical moves that birthed an independent Nigeria from colonial Britain. As a freedom activist, he deployed his wits, energy, intellect and oratory skills to prepare the grounds for constitutional talks that eventually culminated in the country's independence in 1960. The 13th Ààrẹ Ọ̀nà Kakanfò of Yoruba land cut his teeth as a politician when he became a foundation member of Action Group, the dominant political party in the Western region, and was elected the party's parliamentary leader of opposition at the Federal House of Representatives. The crisis in the Action Group, which pitched Samuel Ladoke.
All right, thank you for always being here with us. It's still Morning Spring coming to you live from Western Spring Television, channels 190 on the DTT on Star Times. And if you're joining us for the very first time, I am most honored to have you on this dial at this moment in time. Let's move on this morning as we just finished a couple of sessions from the headlines from the newspapers, but at this moment in time we need to discuss something critical, something people have reacted to, and some people have said, hey, why? What is this all about? Is this needed? But then let's get to understand the basis of this, and if legally going by what the Supreme Court had said a couple of years ago, and what am I talking about? It is an aspect of what the Osun State House of Assembly, whereby they repealed the Osun State Anthem, the Crest, and the flag law of 2012. Now, the Speaker of the Assembly, Honorable Adewale Egbedun, during plenary on Tuesday said the action was taken in compliance with the judgment of a federal high court of December 14th, 2017. But let's, I still have Dr. OMOTOSHO Jr., former Dean Student Affairs from the Federal Polytechnic, and is still in the house with me. And joining us as well on set, I have Barrister Moses OBADITAN in the house, in the studio with me as well. Barrister, good morning to you, sir.
Good morning.
And thank you most sincerely,
thank you for
gentlemen, for coming. Let me just begin with Dr. OMOTOSHO. Help us from your own understanding. Now, the Osun State House of Assembly has repealed the Osun State Anthem, the Crest, and flag law of 2012. Do you have an understanding of what that means?
I think the controversy didn't start today. I will lay a platform that will enable the legal man to go into the legality. I remember in 2011 that the governor then, Aregbesola, went to the House of Assembly, and the House of Assembly with a bill, and they promulgated a law that says the name of the state has changed from Osun State to State of Osun. Some of us criticized that decision. But unfortunately for us, as unilateral as the decision was, we were not listened to. That State of Osun, they changed all the stationery, they spent a lot of money and changed the name to State of Osun, which we felt is unconstitutional, because that's why I come here with the Constitution this morning. The Schedule 1 of this Constitution lists all the states in the Federation. Look at it. He lists it. And he lists Osun there as Osun State, not State of Osun. Okay. And so, you know, that decision was wrong. But some of us were happy when around 2017, a lawyer, Mr. Kami Ajibola, went to court because of a land issue and some other things, and he got a paper from the permanent secretary of one ministry and signed State of Osun. He approached the court in Ilesha, and I think that man was the chairman of the BARR, Nigerian Bar Association in Ilesha. He approached the court, and then the court listened to him. He has a 7-point demand, and then the state government was represented by the Attorney General, Mr. Bashiru, Ajibola Bashiru, and then the case went on, and the judgment was pronounced by Justice Afolabi, Nyeka Afolabi, that the declaration of the state of Osun instead of Osun State, you know, that those who declare Osun as state of Osun, that decision was declared null and void and of no effect. And that everything they have done in that name is declared null and void. I was surprised. So some of us hailed the decision. But you know what happened? The Ajibola, who was Attorney General, said in the court that they are going to appeal the case. And then I think he appealed it. He appealed it in January 4, 2018. And he appealed through a federal appeal court in Akure. And then, you know, what surprised me was that we didn't hear the media hype that goes with APC ideas. You know, APC, they will do a lot of hype about any issue they want to discuss. But then, quietly, he went to court, and I was told, I monitor it, I was told he went to court in Akure. And when he got to court, you know, he stood up for the state, and he said he's representing the state of Osun. And he was cautioned that that judgment delivered by Justice Nyeka Afolabi subsists that you cannot claim state of Osun here. You either represent Osun State or you don't talk. So he left the court. And when he left the court, he abandoned the case. Till today, I didn't hear. That's why I say, let me lay the foundation I know so that the legal practitioner will be able to go, because all of them are his colleagues. He'll be able to move from there. He abandoned that case, and since then, we have been waiting to see when a legal teeth again by the House will be given to the original name of Osun State. And I think that's what the House of Assembly did yesterday in their deliberation by saying that that law that was promulgated by Aregbesol's governorship during 2011 has now been, you know, reversed, and that the state is now Osun State. They also go into the Crest. They went into the Anthem of the state and the rest of them and made pronouncement of them. But that is how that case went. And I'm saying on television that it's like Ajibola Bashiru abandoned that case.
Kami Ajibola? No.
Okay.
To court.
Kami Ajibola went to court. He was the chairman of the BARR Association in Ilesha. The Attorney General is Bashiru Ajibola that appealed the case. He abandoned the case midway, and since then we have not heard anything about it. To me, that's how far I heard about Akure. Maybe the legal man, maybe they've heard some other thing. But I commend the state yesterday, I mean the House of Assembly yesterday, for reversing that decision, you know, formally. They were only giving teeth to what a competent court of jurisdiction has actually declared null and void. So what they did yesterday, I think I support it. Though we may have to discuss the other issues like flag, like Anthem and the rest. But as far as Osun is concerned, we are now Osun State. We are no more state of Osun. And unfortunately for us, we are the only state in the country that bears state of Osun since 2011. And the funny thing, the hypocritical thing about that decision was that I learned that when they are going for their financial discussions in Abuja and they want to request for money, they use the name Osun State. When they come here, they use state of Osun. You can see how hypocritical, you know, some people can be in government. And then what is the economic benefit of changing the name of the state among all states of the federation?
All right. Barrister, help us out constitutionally. What former Governor Rauf Aregbesola did years ago about the changing of that name, constitutionally, was he right?
Thank God Dr. OMOTOSHO has the Constitution. I want you to look to Section 3 of the Constitution. And we know that Rauf Aregbesola has not veered. Just look, 3 Section 1.
Well, maybe you read it from.
I'll read it for you.
Okay.
Should I? Okay, I told you one.
No, go ahead.
Say there shall be 36 states in Nigeria.
Yes.
That is to say, and what she went Abia, Adamawa, Akwa Ibom, Anambra, Bauchi, and so forth.
Yeah.
States. There shall be. They just mentioned their name, Abia. They didn't say Abia State.
But in this schedule I have here, first schedule section 3, it says states of the federation.
Yes.
And the first one there, they say states. Under state,
Yeah.
the road is state.
But
that means I'm coming. Under states, when we do tabulation,
yes.
when you say states up,
yes.
and then you list them,
yes.
that means you are talking of Abia State, Adamawa State.
No, don't assume.
That is not an assumption. It's written there.
As it is in the Constitution.
Abia State,
it's written.
Abia.
No, they say states.
States.
Then they list them.
Okay.
And how do they list them?
They didn't say local government.
No,
they didn't say town.
They say Abia State, or they
say
Abia.
State. Then they list the state.
Oh, yeah, right.
And the local under the state you have Abia.
Okay.
Then you have and so on like that.
They say Abia State, or they just.
It's implied.
Oh,
all right. Okay.
No, it's implied.
I'm coming, Barrister.
When you tabulate,
Barrister and Doctor. Thank God. Please hold on. We'll take a break right now. We'll take a break, and when we come back, I love this. We'll come back and give us a proper analysis of what we want to do.
All right.
This morning, please stay with us.
Born Jeremiah Oyeni Obafemi on March 6, 1905, Obafemi Awolowo was a prime architect of Nigeria's independence and most consummate advocate of free education and social welfare in Africa's most populous nation. Erudite politician, thinker, and philosopher, Awo was fondly addressed by associates and political colleagues, brought his unique attributes to bear on governance in the defunct Western region. He administered as leader of government business and the premier between 1955 and 1958. Obafemi Awolowo's premiership witnessed pioneering in multi-sectoral policy initiatives and execution. The Western region under his administration paraded several enviable records. First television station in Africa, first real estate in Nigeria, first high-rise building in Nigeria, first modern sports stadium in Nigeria, first agricultural settlement in Nigeria, first modern civil service secretariat in Nigeria, and first industrial estate in Nigeria. His face is on 100 naira denomination as a mark of honor for his distinguished services to his country. Western Spring Television identifies Obafemi Awolowo as a major character in history. Dramatist, playwright, and icon of Yoruba thematic arts, Duro Ladipo was born December 18, 1931 in Osogbo, southwest Nigeria. His clergyman father christened him Timothy. His other names, Duro Dola, Duro Shomo, Duro Rike, reflected his personal and the circumstances that surrounded his birth. The legendary stage actor had in several public fora identified himself as one of the greatest abikus born to die in this world. Family records reveal how he was born and died 13 times. The intertwining names he bore thus lent credence to his spiritism. Duro Ladipo was one of the best known and world-acclaimed Yoruba dramatists to emerge from post-colonial Africa. His notable works, Obakoso, Obawaja, and Morimi, took him beyond Africa to several parts of the world. By the time Duro Ladipo died on 11 March 1978, the Nigeria's first cultural ambassador had acquired a towering image as an artist whose works adorned the frontage of Trenchard Hall, University of Ibadan. Western Spring Television identifies Duro Ladipo as a major character in history.
Thank you for being there, and we sincerely apologize. We had to cut off at that point. Just put certain things right. That's why. But here we are. Barrister OBADITAN is here. Yeah, the two gentlemen. Thank God. Give us an analysis. You were trying to lay something for us, Barrister.
Yes, it's a matter of semantics.
Okay.
Yes, you know, if you look at the Constitution, Section 3, Sub 1 say there shall be 36 states in Nigeria. That is to say, Abia, Adamawa, Akwa Ibom, and they keep on mentioning till Osun. They didn't say Abia State, this one state. So once it is, and then my brother, he has traveled worldwide. If you go and say Illinois, did they say Illinois State?
Illinois.
Yes. Yesterday there was flood in one of the states. They didn't say so and so state in America. They just mention, once it is mentioned, it is assumed it's a state. So the fact that they call it Osun or state of Osun is just a matter of style. So in law, what matter is that there has been a law which the Arabeshola government did that time. But if somebody now challenge and say, this your new name is not in conformity with the documents that are available, what the state ought to have done that time would have been to make amend. For example, if you go to court and say Osun State, the court will tell you, these people in our high court here, they say we do not know that, because they did not finish the job. In law, we call it inchoate. And I give you an example.
Yes.
In Lagos State, around 2003, Lagos State decided to create about 64 additional local government. And then, having done that, our brother was working with Chief Olusegun Obasanjo that time. And then they said, the Section 8 of the Nigerian Constitution said, the State Assembly shall have power, create, supervise local government. However, instead of sending the name created in Lagos State to the National Assembly in order to put them on record, Lagos State abandoned it. And then Obasanjo said no. And then when they went to Supreme Court, the Supreme Court said, what the Lagos State have done is correct, but it's an inchoate. Inchoate means not complete. So what the Ralph Arabeshola government have done was good, but was inchoate, not complete. So if another person now challenge and say, when I got there and the court said, I do not recognize name, it's different from this one, you need necessary, but they didn't do that. So the judge was right in nullifying that process because it's of inchoate. Then the Abiola Bashiru went to the Court of Appeal. You abandon your case there. So the last judgment will be the state of the law. So what the Osun State government has done yesterday through the House of Assembly is okay. They have simply rectified what the judgment has carried. Remember, there are ways by which law can be created. A court can create a law. And that is what they did by the judgment. And so what they've done yesterday was to rectify, to amend what is expected, that is no more state of Osun, but Osun State.
So what's basically what happened yesterday, especially 14th day in the year 2017, that the renaming was illegal. What former Governor Arabeshola did then, do you think it was illegal? Look, because I'm looking at what is here. It says on December 14, 2017, an Osun State High Court sitting in Ilesha declared that the renaming was illegal and therefore null and void, while also declaring that the law and its makers were unknown to the 1999 Constitution.
That's what I've explained so far, that
please.
if you try to do a thing and you do not complete it, Yoruba said the leg of the corpse is outside because it's not completed and you want to utilize it. The court has a right to say it's an illegality. But if it is formally done, the process was concluded and it is rectified and then sanctioned. Because if you are going to talk of the process, whenever a state is about to do a thing, the executive cannot do it alone. You need the House of Assembly of that state. And that's what the state did that time by changing the name to become State of Osun. But we are now saying if it has been done so far, you still need to go a bit further. That's what we call gazetting. You go into some of the other sector of your state, the High Court, the health sector, and some other area where we carry the insignia, the name, the nomenclature of that new things and put them there. But those things were not there. And that's why Komi had a problem when he went to process a particular. They said, no, this name is unknown to us. So that's why he now decided to challenge. And they said, well, yes, you are right. Maybe maybe my explanation clear?
I get it.
Yes, you may have a good intention, but if it's not conclusive, like the Lagos State, many other states have tried what Lagos State did.
You know, the point is that I think the governor and the House of Assembly in Osun in 2011 concluded within themselves that they've concluded the process. They went to the State Assembly. The State Assembly ratified it, and then they changed all their stationaries.
But they didn't change other.
And then they changed some, and they didn't change, and they were bearing State of Osun everywhere. And then that was why that guy Ajibola went to court. That there is a paper from one permanent secretary, you know, about the property, and then say State of Osun. And then, like he said, when he got to the place, they said there's nothing like that, and then went to court. Now, the court has declared it null and void. What we are saying here is that, I mean, it is right, because why can't we bear what is in the Constitution? What the Constitution says is state, Osun State. And that's what all other states are calling themselves. Osun State, Ogun State, Ekiti State, and the rest of them. You know, I like Osun people a lot. I stay here for a long time. You know, and I'm so happy with the way we handled it. I wasn't happy with that pronouncement by the governor. In the first instance, I was wondering what's the economic benefit of saying, why are you changing only your state to State of Osun among all states? And then two, you know, Osun people say, well, Philip, don't worry yourself about it. Time we fizzle it out. And then that man went to court. We encouraged him, and then he got judgment. And I'm happy today that that judgment succeeds, because what is the main thing you are trying to achieve by changing the name of this state?
Maybe I should ask.
And at the end of the day now, like the Osun people will say, time will heal it. I think time has healed it now. You know, if it's Ekiti, they will accept you with cutlass and gun. You know, but here, they are peaceful. And they said, no, don't worry.
That's what
and then that man went to court, and court now in his court said the decision was null and void and illegal because it contradicts the Constitution. That's the argument. If it doesn't contradict the Constitution, it's okay. Of course, they went further to do some other things, which I think
the national anthem,
which we are going to discuss.
Beg your pardon. The state anthem, the Crest.
Before we move to that,
yes,
you ask what's the value? Why?
Value?
Well, it may not have economic value. It may have a social value. There are some people, when they are government, they want to say, look, we want to make a difference. I'm a socialist. I want people to know. So the radicalism, I could say, the philosophy of the then governor was, let's be peculiar. The peculiarity, and that what I'm even bringing, it's not new. I've seen it all over whenever I travel. That when I got to Georgia, Illinois, they didn't say Illinois State. What you saw is Illinois, State of Illinois. So, and that's why I said it's a matter of semanticism. If it's where there's understanding, like you rightly said, it's not that Osun people are those I know. When a warrior has been on the battlefront, there will come a time where you have to hang up his arms. If you remember Modakeka and Ife, so many years, so many lives, economic. So the Osun announced we are the Baba. In fact, history tells us that the whole war began in it because it was in Ife that the whole war crystallized and spread across. So if you are the father of all the world, then should you be fighting? So it is good for their maturity and say time will tell.
And
time eventually have done that.
But what do you make of what the repealing of the national state anthem, the crest, the flag law?
I think that one is what I said is not proper. If I'm going to say it that, because some people didn't understand what do they symbolize? Yes. Why do people have it? Let me start by going to a little bit of history of countries that have done that. The first, the importance of anthem. It represents a state identity. Yes. Unity, shared aspiration. It is a powerful symbol of national or that state unity and patriotism among its diverse citizens. But even this particular, I will also give you why this one is okay. History of the anthem began September 14 in 1814. U.S. soldier at the Baltimore fort, McHenry raised a huge American flag to celebrate a crucial victory over British during the war in 1812. So Baltimore was one of those people at the war front. So while he was doing it, the man got inspiration. And then the sight of those broad stripes on the American, flag gave in, and then begin to inspired Francis Scott Key to write a song that eventually became the United States national anthem. So that's how other countries now began to fall. What is anthem? And you know, sometimes when you see this particular one, if actually they repeal it, they're likely to bring it back. Why? It was Pa Obafemi Awolowo who composed it in English. So when Ralph Aregbesola came, he translated the same word. And if you look at it, if you can help me sing the first anthem there, you will see that he has a historical stimulation. Okay, you know, and when you look at those items, you ask question, what do they think? It's talking, look, let's work together, let's do this one and that kind of thing. And even when you look around, that the first Nigerian anthem too, it has some meaning than the new one we are having now. And when you say not this arise, the first Nigerian anthem.
Oh God of fish.
Listen.
Can we? I don't know. Maybe we can get audio here.
Bati beru la bomo, kashishe, kajoba. Nikeje ka malepa, tesiwaju, ko ire, ọmọ Oòduà ni wẹ́, bọ́ sí ipò ẹ̀tọ́ rẹ, ìwọ ni ìmọ́lẹ̀ gbogbo adúláwọ̀. So you can see the content. The content. So it was Papa Awolowo who composed it in English. Yes. This one was translated into Yoruba. So to me, I think by the time the governor tried to sit down, we realized it's just a waste of time. And I don't think anyone can use this to substitute it if it is true. But I don't think they are likely to repeal this one.
Well, you know, the point is this.
Yes. Remember I talk about the purpose, the symbolism.
Yes. Okay. Legally, you know,
this one was not part of the thing they went to court for.
I'm coming. Yes, sir. Legally, the court has said the renaming of the states was null and void and of no effect. And I think I'm assuming that the same bill that created that turned the state from Osun to state of Osun actually created the Crest and possibly the Anthem. If that is the case, if they want to repeal that rule, they will repeal it together.
And they can also bring it back.
Then they can bring it together. My own position is this. The national item is unique. Like you said, it was formed by Chief Obafemi Awolowo. And Ralph Aregbesola told us, you know, he did. In fact, there was a program I attended, and then we signed the national anthem, and then we stood up to sing the state anthem. And I observed that those who are following the governor did not even know how to sing it. And I could sing it very well. So I challenged them that look at you. You are not even following.
And you know, other states also come.
Other states. Ogun State has its anthem. Ekiti State has its anthem. So the anthem is unique to your culture. And it's good.
And to stimulate your people.
To stimulate and
then give them historical perspective.
It was born out of that cultural background and our own interest that this is the way we feel. Particularly this one, if I feel this particular item Osun is using should be used by the whole of the West, the Southwest, because it was Obafemi Awolowo who actually formulated it. Look at the last answer. You know, Iwoni, you know, Imole Adulawo.
You're the lights of
the whole Africa.
That was born out of the 4 cardinal points of Awolowo, that education will open the eyes of everybody. And we are the champion of education. That is good. I appeal to the State Assembly to reconsider that and bring this back.
I also appeal to them.
So, because that anthem is used, and we are not using it in isolation. You will sing the national anthem, they will sing the state anthem. And when any program is over, they will. In fact, when we visited Aregbe as when we wanted to do Nipoga, I was the chairman of the publicity committee. Okay. You know, went with the rector to see him. He decorated us with the crest and the other things, put it on our back, and then he gave us a cassette, you know, that contains the anthem. That's why I know the anthem. And so you realize that it's unique to the state, and I think that is good. For they can cancel the changing of the name, but the anthem, the flag, and the rest, we can have it. If you look at the president himself, the president sits the way I sit now. And then you see the flag of Nigeria, you see the flag of the military. It is like that. So when a state governor is sitting, you can have the flag of Nigeria, the flag of your own state, and then why not have your own item? I don't think there's anything bad in all those ones. But for the state of Osun that they changed, that is wrong, and court has said
because it's null and void, and they have not succeeded at the appeal, they complete the case.
Since they didn't succeed in the appeal,
so that remains the law.
That remains the law. So we are Osun State now, but they should please leave our anthem. They should leave the flag. They should leave. You know, there are some things that are really not good. The majority will tell you it's not good. Look at the reclassification of schools. They changed all the uniform. People didn't like it. You know. Even his chief of staff as governor, Aregbe's chief of staff as governor, you know, suggested that those uniforms of each school should come back, which means that decision was not popular. Did you see anybody protesting against it? Every school wants its own uniform. Look, if you go to my alma mater now, our uniform is in our photograph, and I still have it in my house. And it is unique to us. No, this particular one, national item, flag, and then crest. I mean, they should bring it back.
Gentlemen, before we go this morning, let me just ask you, what is happening right now in Osun State, the repealing of all this that we have been discussing, do you think it's a political, or Mr. Governor just trying to make a distinction, he wants to be distinct in his administration? Barrister, what's your take on that?
Well, every aspect of human life is political. In fact, in my department in UI, that's the Department of Political Science, I first of all read political science, they say politics is living. Every living being play politics. And so Adeleke being a unique governor, he has to make his own mark. He has to make the people feel, look, you may say I am, it's just like when Obama wanted to become the president in America. Bill Clinton looked around and said, black man, you. And by the time Obama got there, he made an impact.
Absolutely.
And he left a footmark that people are still seeing. So Adeleke must come to make his own impact felt. So, and then too, there are some other people like my brother OMOTOSHO who never believe in that radicalism, this approach to things. And so it's as a carryover of Tabadebe. And now that they are ripe, whatever is being done is a continuation of politics. It is welcome. But then we should not chase shadow. We should face the reality. The man started very well. Within the short period has been there, he has made a lot of impact on the road, infrastructure development, and some other things. So we don't want it. These are just to me, it's the minor. So they should face the reality, the economy. How do we make the people to feel, to reduce the impact of this subsidies withdrawal? Other states have been doing. What is it going to do for them? Then unemployment. Even as I'm talking, he has problem with the civil servant. There are those of them who are agitating that they're about to be weed out for one reason or the other, and you're assuring them no. So let him focus on the real substance so that he can win more people to himself. To me, I think I have nothing against his policy so far. He has been doing very well, but they should not allow the side attraction.
Well, I just feel that every, like you said, every decision we have to read politics to it. Maybe political. But I don't think it's economic. It's social and cultural. Like we said, I really assume that bill from Aregbesola is just one bill that created and established all, both the crest, the flag, and the rest. That's why they can't separate it. And I think now it is the state of Osun that was controversial. Not that one has been declared null and void since 2017, and no appeal has succeeded. I think that is dead, finally. Now, for the crest and the rest, well, he can play his time since that man touched it. There is nothing bad, in leaving what Aregbe did. it's a very good decision by Aregbe for us to have our own Anthem and to have our own Crest. I don't think, government is a continuum. You can actually review, jettison the ones that are not good and continue with the ones that are good. I think for the flag, the Anthem and the Crest, they are good. I appeal to the government to continue with that. And like Barrister said, and they should not waste more time in that in the House of Assembly. They should do the needful, validate it with a law, and let the government put its assent, and then they should continue with the economic program that can actually, change the life of the people positively. That is what we clamor for. People are suffering so much, like we said during the paper review. The inflation is killing, and then transportation, money. How do you pay minimum wage if it's increased? A state like this should be thinking of that now. And what can you do to increase your IGR without actually inflicting injury on the citizen? That should be paramount in their mind.
I'd like to thank you, both young gentlemen, for joining me on the program Morning Spring this beautiful Thursday morning. Barrister Moses OBADITAN, thank you most sincerely. Thank you. Dr. Oluyemi OMOTOSHO Jr., I want to thank you most sincerely as well. And definitely, quickly, you say a big happy birthday to your dear sister, Moshibolaton Ogunfolaju Idris. It's your birthday today. Happy birthday to you. Thank you for following us up in here. I'll be back again tomorrow on another edition of the program Morning Spring, live from Western Spring Television. On behalf of the entire transmission team, my directors, my camera team, thank you for being there. TUNDE IDOWU is my name. Good morning.
The British Empire was the largest and the most powerful in the world. At its zenith, the empire embraced a quarter of the Earth's land surface and imposed her imperial majesty's rule on more than 458 million peoples across nations and continents. The empire took off with overseas possessions and trading posts established by England, spread over 3 million kilometers between 16th and early 18th century. Like previous empires, the British Empire began to crumble on its weight of overstretched territories and growing unrest in our various colonies. Today, the British Empire no longer exists. What is in place is the Commonwealth of Nations, a loose association of sovereign states which recognize the King of England as the titular head. Western Spring Television identifies the British Empire as a watershed empire in history. This iconic African presents the narrative of a man destined to exert an imperishable global influence in Western education. His was a story of a freeborn, captured and sold into slavery. He was born in Oshogun, a native Yoruba village near Iseyin in Okeogun axis of southwest Nigeria. Samuel Ajayi Crowther was the foundation student of Fora Bay College, Sierra Leone, the foremost university where the pioneer set of native Africans were educated. Samuel Ajayi Crowther's greatest contribution to humanity was his translation of the Holy Bible into the Yoruba language. The man who authored the Yoruba dictionary was also credited for the translation of English classic hymns into Yoruba and the Ekwere languages. Samuel Ajayi Crowther's private residence in Badagry, incidentally the first story building in Nigeria, is an archival museum dedicated to the memory of Africa's first bishop. Western Spring Television identifies Samuel Ajayi Crowther as a watershed character in history. Samuel Ladoke Akintola was a frontal figure in the historical moves that birthed an independent Nigeria from colonial Britain. As a freedom activist, he deployed his wits, energy, intellect, and oratory skills to prepare the grounds for constitutional talks that eventually culminated in the country's independence in 1960. The 13th Ààrẹ Ọ̀nà Kakanfò of Yoruba land cut his teeth as a politician when he became a foundation member of Action Group, the dominant political party in the Western region, and was elected the party's parliamentary leader of opposition at the Federal House of Representatives. The crisis in the Action Group, which pitched Samuel Ladoke Akintola against his leader, was not only a sore point in his colorful political life, but a reversal of gains which characterized the exemplary leadership of Awolowo Akintola premiership. 23 years after his death, Oyo State University of Technology OMOTOSHO was renamed Samuel Ladoke Akintola University of Technology to keep his memory alive. Western Spring Television identifies Samuel Ladoke Akintola as a major character in history. Born 16th September 1923, named Harry Lee Kwan and known as Lee Kuan Yew, he was often addressed by his initials of LKY. Lee Kuan Yew was a barrister and the first Prime Minister of Singapore between 1959 and 1990. Educated at Raffles Institution from 1936 to 1940 and the Fitzwilliam House between 1947 and 1949, Lee Kuan Yew established a highly effective and anti-corrupt governance system that midwives the transformation of Singapore into a high net worth income economy within a generation. He never hid his exception to Western mode